Hi, my name is Edwin, and today we're gonna go through everything you need to know, from picking a ritual mistake for the first time to becoming an expert. Since the new support was announced and over the last 6 months, I've been doing a lot of research, playtesting and analyzing of every single aspect of the ritual mistake. And in this video, I'm going to try to translate all that into a easy to digest tutorial with steps and guidelines on how to get started and get better with the deck. This video, similar to some of my other videos, is also meant to be a sort of reference material for you guys to visit and revisit as you make your way forward to learning the deck. Also, I often feel the way that we make guides and tutorials for Yu-Gi-Oh decks is often not the best, so in this video you will also see sort of like my own twist, my own opinion on how to make an effective tutorial for a deck, especially a complex one like the Ritual Beast deck. So here is what we're gonna tackle today. Now, as I mentioned before, this video is meant to be sort of like a reference. For you guys to go through and visit and revisit to learn more about the deck. You will notice the timeline below. I try to be as descriptive as possible with the timelines, just so you guys have a clear point of where to go to if you are revisiting this video. Now, when we get started today, we're gonna cover why, and chances are, as you are already finding this video, you're watching this video, already convinced that you wanna play the deck. But this is just mainly my own opinion of why I think this deck is good to learn, even including for players that are just beginning in the game. And also why I feel is a good deck that you might want to invest time on and get better with. Now the second one is what, and this is just generic, what the deck is, basically just describing what the deck is all about. And this kind of going hand in hand with the next one here, that is how, and this is how the deck plays. And I feel something that is missing often from Yu-Gi-Oh guides is what the objective for the deck is. So that's why we go through in here. We explain what our objective is going first, our objective is going second, and our objective or how we reduce the opponent's life point to 0, how we OTK our opponent. After that, we're gonna cover what the deck is like for beginners. This is basically if you are just picking the deck casually, maybe you have multiple decks, this is just a deck you want to be able to bring into your locals, and there's nothing wrong with that. I just give you some guidelines on how to play the deck at that level. Then if you want to get better with the deck, we're going to competitive, and this is just how you actually learn the deck and move forward into actually being able to be more competitive with the deck, if you want to say. And then expert, and this is how I feel the deck ultimately should be played. And there's gonna be different advice in each one of the steps, and also points in between that can let you know, okay, you might want to go and start doing this next thing, or this is how you transition from one point to the next one. After that, we're gonna cover the deck list for the deck. By the way, here I tried to draw something that was a Ritual Beast monster. I have 0 drawing skills, so you guys get a deck of cards. Well, anyway, the deck list, and this is not only the deck list, like give you card by card, but also what some of the compromises that you do while building the deck list is. And I'm gonna explain those when we get there. And the last one here is what to expect. And this is what to expect from the deck when the cards are finally released. So when when the end of June comes around, or July comes around, what is gonna happen with the deck in the TCG, how I feel the deck is gonna perform, and what you will expect moving forward with new sets coming out like Infinite Forbidden and just towards the future with the deck. So if you find this video, chances are that you need little convincing on why to play the deck. May you like the artwork, may you like the lore behind it, may you saw somebody playing at your locals and you think it's a really cool deck. Maybe you're looking for the next combo decks to play, or maybe you're just looking for a next competitive decks to bring to your next event. And in that aspect, I feel there's a couple of things that you might want to know about this deck if you're picking it up. Number one, I feel the Ritual Beast deck is gonna be the best shifter deck of the format. Number two, I think it's gonna be probably the third or fourth best deck of the format. If you think about the tier where the fire deck is and maybe Tenpai next to it, right the tier below, I think it's gonna probably be Ritual Beast, together with Voiceless, maybe Lab, and other decks of the format. I think the deck is that strong, and especially if pilot correctly, I think the deck can surprise a lot of people, especially in big events. Another thing is that the deck is not gonna be majorly represented, and the reason behind it is the same issue that a lot of decks has when they has this air of complexity around them. And it's that because the deck feels complicated to play, people don't pick it up. Because people don't pick it up, it doesn't have the representation. So you will see, especially in the OCGs, you look very in deep into the results that the deck has been having, even in a very hostile format with max C there and the limitations they have to shift their emergency teleport and post prosperity. The deck is still able to convert really well into topping events from very few people that are actually playing the deck. So the conversion rates are really good, which express that the deck is better than what the topping numbers actually say. And it's gonna be even better in this TCG because of the difference in our ban list. Now, while it's important to keep in mind all this competitive information about the deck, I feel the main reason why I feel it's a really good idea to pick up this deck is because I have never seen a deck that has such a good conversion from the time and effort you put into it into meaningful results. The deck has a very high skill ceiling, which also gives it a lot of room for improvement. So when you start playing the deck, you will notice that you start making certain plays and you immediately notice you can make better plays and then better plays, and it's very rewarding cycle of learning the deck and becoming a master with it. Now, since we talk about the skill ceiling for the deck, I think it's in order to talk about the skill floor for the deck, and something that gets thrown around a lot when people talk about the deck, and it's how complex it is to play. And I want to make a big difference here between a complex deck and complicated to play, because I feel that are two very different things. And I feel personally that this deck is no more complicated to play than other decks like Fire or even some tier 2 decks like Branded, for example. I feel the deck has this air of complexity because at the time that it was released originally, back in 2016, it was way ahead of the curve in terms of complexity. But I think the time has catch up with it, and I think now there is a lot of decks that has similar level of complexity. And like every deck, it's gonna get complex to play once you reach the top of the level of mastery with the deck. But I feel for the skill floor of the deck, the main issue is that there is not a clear path on how to learn the deck. Now that's the main reason behind this video. This video is meant to be this path that will guide you from being a beginner player all the way into reaching the level of mastery with the deck. So if you're ready, let's get started. Now let's move to the next point and cover what the Ritual Beast deck is. Alright, so the Ritual Beast deck is composed of wind and light monsters that can themselves be divided into 3 different sub-archetypes. We have the Ritual Beast Tamers, which are gonna have effects on summon that allow you to put another body on the field. Some of them special summon from the grave or special summon from the banished zone, and others just allow you to perform an additional normal summon. We have the Spiritual Beast monsters, which are gonna be level 4 monsters of an assortment of different types. We have Thunders, we have Pyro, we have Aqua, and others that allow you to move cards to different locations, which normally involve being able to banish cards. Some banish from the deck, some banish from the grave, and so on. Apart from that, we have the Ritual Beast Ulti monsters. And the Ulti monsters are gonna be your extra deck monsters. And these monsters often require 2 monsters or more to make, and are gonna be of 2 different types, or 2 different card types, I should say. We have our Ritual Beast monster, Link monster, and we have our Fusion monsters. Now we also have some monsters that kind of blur the line between more than one typing here. You see we have Winda here, and we also have the new Spiritual Beast Lara. Now for these 2 monsters, as the name suggests, they are a Spiritual Beast, so they're going to be part of a Spiritual Beast sub-archetype. And they're also, as you see the word Spiritual has the word Ritual there, so they're Ritual Beast Tamers. So they're going to be also part of our Ritual Beast Tamer sub-archetypes. Now 3 things characterize a Ritual Beast deck. Number 1 is a very strong utilization of the Banish pile. So the Ritual Beast deck, and a lot of these monsters, like I was mentioning earlier, will have the ability to banish monsters, and will also have the ability to interact with the Banish zone. So that's one thing that the Ritual Beast deck does really well. If normally your setup past turn 1 or the way that you OTK is by returning a lot of monsters that are banished back into the field. I'm gonna go more into detail when we explain how the deck plays. The second thing is that for the fusion side of things, the fusion that the Ritual Beast deck make, as you can read in there, is let it focus. Okay, The fusion that Ritual Beast make is by contact fusing. So the way that you fuse is that you banish the above material from the field. So that is something that is characterized by the Ritual Beast deck. And also the fusion that only require 2 monsters, like ulti-cannahawk here, has the ability to quick effect diffuse themselves back into a tamer and a spiritual beast monster. Now the final thing that characterizes a Ritual Beast deck, and this is a very important one, is as you see, and this is the case for all main deck monsters, towards the end of the effect of Winda here, I'm gonna get my camera to cooperate. Is that all the main deck monsters has a restriction that mentioned that they can only be a special summon once per turn. So as a restriction, we're gonna be sort of like dancing around as we play the deck. Alright, now we have an idea of what the deck is. Let's cover the general plan of what we're trying to do when playing the deck. Alright, so how the Ritual Beast deck play? Well, your main objective when playing the Ritual Beast deck is 2 different things. Number 1, we're gonna try to loop in and out ulti-cannahawk as much as possible. And the main reason behind that is because ulti-cannahawk is our advantage generation machine, if you wanna call it. So you will notice in ulti-cannahawk effect, really quick, you notice that the first effect ulti-cannahawk have allow, apart from the summoning condition, is to once per turn we can target to banish Ritual Beast monster returning to the grave, and if we do that, we're able to search a card from our deck. Now the second effect towards the end, say that during each player's turn, that's how they used to call or phrase quick effects. You can return this to the extra deck, which by the way is a cost, and to special summon 2 of your banished monsters. One is the Tamer and the other one is the Spiritual Beast monster. So that's what we call the fusing with the deck. So what you're not trying to do, if I get my camera to focus, there we go. What we are not trying to do is that we're gonna end up making ulti-cannahawk again and again, getting cards into our hand, and continue playing as much as possible. The second objective we're gonna have with the deck is that we're gonna try to continue getting more and more normal summons with the deck. As I mentioned before, every single one of the main deck Ritual Beast monsters can only be a special summon once. So the way to move forward with the deck is to get more and more normal summons. And that's where cards like ulti-cannahawk Falcon come into play. So you will notice here towards the middle of the card, towards the start I should say, after the effect that gain attack, you notice that you can banish Ritual Beast cards from your grave, and immediately after, normal summon 1 Ritual Beast from your hand. So that's how we're gonna keep moving forward for the deck. So what this gives the deck is this very sort of like a snowbally type of playstyle. Let me show you what I mean. Alright, so we're gonna start with one of the stereotypical hands here. And this, by the way, is not by no means an optimized combo, just for the sake of simplicity and example. We're gonna have our Ritual Beast Tamer Elder, and we're gonna have our Cannahawk here. We're gonna start by normal summoning Elder, which is gonna give us an additional normal summon. We're gonna use additional normal summon for our Spiritual Beast Cannahawk. Now, Cannahawk effect will be able to banish a monster from our deck. In this case, let's go ahead and banish our Spiritual Beast Tamer Winda. And now we have a Tamer and a Spiritual Beast on the field. So we're able to banish them both to special summon or Ritual Beast ulti-cannahawk. Now with ulti-cannahawk on the field, we can activate ulti-cannahawk effect to return 2 Ritual Beast cards back into the graveyard to search your deck for a Ritual Beast card. So we're gonna do that by targeting our Winda and Elder to go back into the grave so we can search our deck for 1 card. Now, a very important thing, and this is the first thing you learn with Ritual Beast, is that ulti-cannahawk effect can be stuck on itself. What this means is that we can change the effect to the fuse that we were talking about earlier and target our Ritual Beast Tamer Elder and our Cannahawk to be a special summon back into the field. So the way the chain resolve here is that Cannahawk and Elder make the way into the field, and because of the wording on Ritual Beast ulti-cannahawk, even when Winda is the only card that goes back into the graveyard, we still get this search from our deck. So in this case, we're going to be searching or Ritual Beast Tamer Lara. Now Lara has the effect that is able to special summon a Ritual Beast monster from our graveyard. So the first thing that we're going to do with the deck is what I mentioned just showcase. So the first objective is that we're going to be fusing and defusing ulti-cannahawk to get more and more advantage. Now the second thing is that we're going to seek out more normal summons. So now we're going to use our Cannahawk and Elder on the field for our ulti-cannahawk. Now ulti-cannahawk has the effect that we can banish a Ritual Beast from our graveyard. In this case, let's just banish our Cannahawk to be able to normal summon a Ritual Beast from our hand. In this case, our Lara. Now Lara has a trigger effect that when she is normal summon, we are able to special summon a Ritual Beast from the graveyard. And now we happen to have again a Ritual Beast Tamer, and remember Winda counts as a Spiritual Beast monster and a Ritual Beast Tamer, and a Spiritual Beast monster. So we have the materials once again to go into our ulti-cannahawk. So we can fuse into ulti-cannahawk again and use his effect again. And this is basically how the deck moves forward and how you are able to play the deck. Our ability to gain more and more normal summons help us keep moving forward with the deck. And ulti-cannahawk, ability to add cards to our hand and defuse itself, help us to keep getting more and more advantage. That's what I mean with the snowballing. You see we start with 2 normal summons, but then we go ahead and search a card to our hand and get an additional normal summon. And you will notice this tendency of the deck to be played this way. Search a card to your hand, get additional normal summons. Search a card to your hand, get additional normal summons. And that way we are gonna end up being able to set up very strong boards by simply playing in this sort of like a snowball style. Alright, I think it's a good time to introduce some of the other monsters that we have. I'm not gonna go over them in too much detail, especially if you're just beginning to play. We just want to know how they prepare our strategy forward, no? So basically, we have the Spiritual Beast monsters, we have the Tamers, we have Spiritual Beast Tamers in Winda and Lara, and we have our ulti monsters, that are our extra deck monsters. Start from the top left, we have Cannahawk, that is able to banish from the deck. And I know if you read these cards, this won't be the full effect that they have. But this is basically, if you think about them competitively, this is basically the effects that they have to prepare our strategy forward, no? That's what I want to be focusing on, not in the details right now. Rampengo is able to banish one from the extra deck and banish a Ritual Beast of the same typing from our deck. And if you have noticed, our Ritual Beast Tamers and our Spiritual Beast are all psychic, while the Spiritual Beast monsters, like we mentioned earlier, are on a assortment of different types. No? Apelio has a quick effect, banish from the grave, to increase the attack of everything by 500. Petelfin, I'm currently not playing, and is able to banish from the hand as cost to bounce something on the field. We have Elder, that's the card where it was another normal summon. Sephirpelica and Lara, special summon from the graveyard. The Sephirpelica has the niche part where she destroys the monster in the end phase. When a special summon something that is banished, Lara here has a protection effect that allows her to banish herself from the field or graveyard to protect some Ritual Beast monsters on the field from destruction. Apart from that, she can be discarded from the hand to get an additional normal summon. And apart from that, she also has the effect that when she is banished, she is able to allow us to special summon, a Ritual Beast monster from our deck. So very useful card, one of the most, if not the most important card in the deck. And we have Winda that has a floating effect. Now when she is destroyed by battle or by the opponent card effect, she is able to float into any of our extra deck monsters. Cannahawk is the card we're going to be looping that we talked about earlier. Ultimo Falco will give us an additional normal summon. Gaiapelio is an end piece, is an end board piece that is able to give us Omni Negates by discarding Ritual Beast cards from our hand. So very useful. Ultra Ray has 2 relevant effects. One is that allows it add a Ritual Beast card that is banished into our hand to normal summon a Ritual Beast. And also has the other effects that allows to banish a Ritual Beast card on our field and banish a card in our opponent's board only during their turn. Ultinochi is the only ritual-based monster that can be fusion summoned using monsters in the graveyard too, so that makes him very useful. Also, he protects the other cards that we have from targeting by being the only ritual-based card that can be targeted on our field. The only ritual-based monster that can be targeted. And we have ulti-Apelio, that's a card I'm not playing currently, that has battle protection, that is unaffected when battling, and also is just basically another ritual-based monster fusion. And similar to these other monsters in here, the Cannahawk, the ulti-Falco, the ulti-Noshi, and the ulti-Apelio, all of them have the quick effect, the fusion. The only difference here is that ulti-Noshi apply a restriction that ulti-Noshi only bring one monster back, and also a monster cannot attack directly. Alright, so now we have a general idea of what we're gonna be doing with the deck. Let's move into what actually we're gonna be trying to do while going first. Alright, so going first, what we want in hand is that we want a 1 or 2 card starter. Now, the 1 card starters will involve having one Spirit of Vizcana in hand or having one Spirit of Rampengo. Now, Spirit of Rampengo by itself is the weakest combo in the whole deck. And Spirit of Vizcana and the rest of the combo here are able to set up 4 to 5 interruptions for the deck. Now, there's a couple of 2 card starters that we can have. We have our Elder and Cannahawk starter. And Elder can also be a 2 card starter together with Rampengo. Now, these 2 starters, the Elder Cannahawk and the Elder Rampengo starters, are the most resilient combos in the deck, the ones that are able to play through the most interruptions. Now, a niche thing here that we also want to mention is that Rampengo and D-Shifter also have another 2 card starters. To keep in mind that it's able to put 4 interruptions on board. Now, there is 2 cards that work sort of like jokers, if you want to call it, or blanks in the deck. And that's Emergency Teleport and Lara. These 2 cards plus any of these cards form a 2 card starter, and by themselves with each other also form a 2 card starter that is able to set 4 to 5 interruptions. Alright, so here's one of the most common embors for the deck and some of the most common embor pieces for the deck. Now, very important distinction here with the deck. When you're playing Ritual Beast and going first, your objective is not to lock your opponent out from playing the game as much as it is, or prevent your opponent from playing, as much as it is to reach turn 3 in a position where you can OTK or you can create an unsurmountable advantage. So the most important thing here, the thing that we care the most about all this embor setup is actually our Vanish Pile and our Graveyard. That's the most important point of all this. Now, when we are playing the deck, we're gonna set up an embor going first that has, as we mentioned before, 4 to 5 interactions, no? And here, what we consider that would be 1 Vanish, a Stitch, that is a new card that we haven't seen, we haven't covered yet, is a non-targeting destruction up to the number of Ritual-based monsters we control. So that will allow for destruction, non-targeting. We have IP, this ulti-Noshi Dragon in the opponent's turns is gonna go into ulti-Falco, that is gonna go into 2 more monsters. So then our Stitch will be able to destroy 3 monsters. Ulti-Relator is gonna be able to banish another threat. And IP here, together with our Cannahawk, will be able to go into something like an SP Little Knight. And SP will be able to get 2 more banishes. And while ulti-Noshi is in the field, we have targeted protection. And in the graveyard, we also have destruction protection in the way of Lara. Now, while this is the embor we're covering, I also want to mention one more card here that I'm currently playing that helps with the embor. And it's ulti-Apelio. We have a lot of Ritual-based cards left in hand after a combo. So if we open 5 cards, use 2 for the combo, the 3 other Ritual-based, for example, we're gonna end up in Gaia Apelio, and this will be an Omni Negate per Ritual-based card in hand. So now, last I just want to mention this, and these are other options that we have, although more niche. And as I mentioned before, I feel right now the deck and the decklist I'm gonna showcase, I think it's strong enough to get to turn 3 in a winning position. No? I just want to mention this just in case you want to explore these options yourself later on. Another thing we can do instead of Spiritul Knights, some people have been testing the OCGs with Underworld Goddess and with Appaloosa. So 2 cards we can keep in mind. Sometimes you see Decklist with rank 4s that we can set up in a starting turn, like Baguska or Abyss Dweller. And more niche combos that you can do is that you can use Gigante Sprite to set up a Nightmare Evil lock in the opponent. We can use Beatrice to go ahead and use the transaction rollback with Ghost Mid-Gear to lock our opponent. We can use Ebor's at Lars to set up an Omni Negate. And there is Ebor's Dan and in Tottenberg too. Now, also another thing to mention is that Kannahawk is a Thunder monster. So another thing that we can do here is that since we also can make rank 4s, we can also go for the Colossals line or even search Proto for the deck. So all these things are different alternatives you can explore. But again, I just want to reiterate this. The main thing we're trying to go for is to try to reach turn 3 in a position where we can OTK or get an unsurmountable advantage. And I feel the deck list that we currently have is good enough to do that. Alright, now we have an idea of what our objective is going first. Let's talk about objective going second. Alright, while playing the decks and going second, we're gonna try to do one of 2 things. 1, OTK our opponent, or 2, gain an advantage position that allows to OTK our opponent turn 4. The way we're gonna do that is that we're gonna have 5 different objectives, 5 different things we're gonna be trying to do. We're gonna use defensive cards and hand traps to weaken our opponent board. We're gonna try to climb to access Scott Tucker to clear threats on the board, and while doing so, we're gonna try to utilize effects that remove threats from the board too, like Anima, or Name Unicorn, or SP Little Knight. And by the way, access Scott most of the time when it comes out, it's gonna be able to have 2 disruptions, one from Kimu Falco's Win, and the Nightmare Unicorn, another dark monster that we utilize. The objective number 3 is that we're gonna utilize effectively the effect of Lara and Noshi to pin down some of the monsters that the opponent has, some of the threats that they have. Remember, Lara protects from destruction while in the grave or field, and Ulti Noshi is the only Ritual Beast that can be target one on the field. So. Number 4, we're gonna utilize our monsters with high attack to threaten the board too. And here we have Apelio that can increase everything by 500, and with Apelio activated, Ulti Ray goes all the way to 31, and Ulti Gaia Apelio goes all the way to 37. So, and the last thing here is that we cannot OTK our opponent. We're gonna utilize defensive tools to allow us to survive or to have a position that we're in an advantage on turn 3, after turn 3, so we can get to turn 4 and finally kill our opponent. And that would be do a defensive setup that might involve a Steed, IP into SP, or other cards. Alright, so this is going to be a quick showcase of what we mentioned before and try to show an example of how we utilize these 5 objectives that we mentioned earlier. So let's say we, in our opponent's turns, use objective number 1, use defensive tools to go ahead and challenge the opponent's board. No? So we use Ash, let's say on our turn, we use Super Poly to challenge our opponent board. And again, this is just a showcase. It's not exactly how every deck, every time going second is gonna pan out, but I just want to showcase all the tools that we have, all the objectives that we mentioned earlier. So that's what's objective number 1. No? Weaken our opponent's board by using hand traps and defensive tools. No? Objective number 2. Let's go ahead and normal summon Elder. And let's say we use the Invasion normal summon for Kannahawk. Let's say our opponent has a way to interact with this board. No? Then we're gonna let's say we have something like, I don't know, a blackout, for example. That's gonna try to destroy board of our Ritual Beast monsters. We can use Emergency Call here, Italy, I should say, to summon a Lara from the deck, and Lara has the substitution protection, no? So we can protect from destruction with our Lara. So that's objective number 3, you know, utilize the effect of Lara and Ulti Noshi effectively to challenge the opponent's board, no? And Lara not only does that, he also able to summon a Ritual Beast from our deck. And I just wanna, this is not gonna be the most effective things to do, but I really wanna showcase how all these things go into play. Let's say we summon a Lara from our deck. And we can utilize this Lara to go, for example, if our opponent has a monster in front of these 2 zones, we can use anima to go ahead and challenge, get a monster the opponent have into our spell interruption, no? So that way we start challenging the opponent board, no? Using kind of effect, let's say we banish from our deck. In this case, let's go ahead and go for another Lara for the sake of this example. Now we're gonna utilize both monsters. Going to ulti-cannahawk. Use ulti-cannahawk effect and effect diffuse. We bring back our Elder and Cannahawk, send one of the Laras to the graveyard, and we search from our deck to our hand. And in this case, let's go for a copy of When, just so I can showcase the rest of the things. And for Cannahawk, for this example, let's just go for Winda. We Cannahawk effect, no? Now we have 4 monsters on the field, but we can have even more. We can utilize these 2 monsters in the graveyard to go into our ulti-Nocho Dragon. Now ulti-Nocho in the field, we have, well, we already have targeted protection, but let's say this wasn't here, we will have targeted protection with ulti-Nocho, you know? Now the next thing we mentioned that we want to try to do is that we want to utilize our monsters to climb into an access code if we can, no? That's something we can start doing here. So we can use these 2 monsters, for example, to go, and let's say we cannot, for some reason we figure out we cannot OTK our opponent, we could go for SP. If we feel we can still OTK our opponent, we could go for IP instead here, no? And IP obviously still has the protection effect that we can utilize. So let's say we go for SP, SP go ahead and banish something. We can go ahead and fuse one more time. Go into an ulti-cannahawk effect. We'll send something back. Let's go ahead and end up sending back maybe an Elder, just to keep it simple. Change the effect to diffuse. Special summon Bolaras. And we can add to our hand a copy of Lara. So we can get an additional normal summon with her hand effect, no? Now here we basically have the freedom to keep climbing, no? But let's say we have even more threats in the opponent's board that we need to deal with. Well, then we can use these 2 to go into ulti-cannahawk once more. I use ulti-cannahawk yet again to send Bolaras back. And in this case, let's say, what we send? Let's say we add Apelio to hand, for example. Or let's say, actually I'm trying to showcase everything, so let's put a Steed here. Let's say we want to add a Steed instead, to keep things as simple as possible. So now we can utilize our speed, and we can utilize our ulti-Nocho. And here, if there was another threat, we can use Name Unicorn and discard Steeds, or this could have been a Ritual Beast monster in that case, to deal with another threat. But if we're ready with enough threats, or we have enough ways to deal with them, we can use these 2 monsters, then go to Access Code. Access Code will be able to pop another monster, 5300 attack, not too shabby. We can use Lara effect, normal summon when bring out Winda. And Winda will be able to crash if we need to. And with Winda, when Winda crash, let's say if we can bring out our ulti-rerotare to get over another monster, we can go ahead and do that. Or if we need to get over something that is very, very large, I mean, access code is already in place, we could have done ulti-Apelio. And the last objective was to set up a board ourselves, no? Ulti-Ray is able to add Cannahawk to hand. Cannahawk can be normal summon, and we can use the effect. And here we can go ahead and banish or Apelio. And we could even fuse one more time if we wanted to here into another ulti-cannahawk. Let's say we play a second Steed. We can go ahead and search towards these monsters bags to go for that second Steed, or simply go for something that we can use a follow-up, you know? Maybe an Elder, we have something else in mind, in hand, or maybe Sephrapilica, so we can reborn something. And the final objective that we haven't covered yet is just as a defensive setup, and that's what we did here. So we have Steeds as a defensive tool, we have Ulti-Ray as a defensive tool, we we can defuse this ulti-cannahawk into Lara and Apelio, use Apelio effect to banish an Spirit of Lara and summon yet another monster. So we have 4 destruction with our steeds, and we have follow-up in hand and in graveyard too. So this is how you can see you can play the deck going second. So the deck can be very strong. Should know how to sync your plays and keep these 5 objectives in mind. Alright, the 5 objectives slash ideas that I just mentioned. Just remember things to keep in mind while playing going second. You want to be aware of your options, and this will help you do just that. Now we cover going second. Let's see how we OTK or win the game. Alright, so while thinking about OTKing, these are some of the effects we want to keep in mind. First of all, we have a Apelio effect that is able to boost everything by 500 by banishing a Ritual Beast from grave, and this is not once per turn, by the way, so just remember that. So if you normal summon Apelio and then special summon it, or the other way around, you can activate the effect again and boost everything by 1000. That is often what will get you over the 8000 threshold. Apart from Apelio, we also have other monsters that these are normally the monsters that are gonna be in the field when you OTK. It's Access Code, Ulti Ray Rotary, Ulti Gaia Apelio, and Ulti No Show Dragon. So these are very important monsters we're gonna be able to hit for a lot of damage with them on the board. And effects that we're gonna also keep in mind is Inheritance effect. An Inheritance is a card actually we haven't covered yet. An Inheritance has the effect, has 3 different effects actually. So number 1, it has an effect that reduces the opponent's monsters attack by 200, and that can be important. That can be what get you over the threshold. The second one is an effect that helps us with consistency. We can reveal a Ritual Beast monster in hand and add a Ritual Beast monster to the hand that is a different type. Then we discard a card. And the last one is also important for OTKing, and is you have 2 or more monsters being summoned, but at the same time you are able to change the position. And this is important because some monsters, like in the case of ulti-cannahawk, summon the monsters in defense position, but they are still able to attack. So Inheritance is able to switch them to attack, and they're able to hit. Apart from that, we have Emergency Teleport, and the best target for Emergency Teleport in respect to damage is Gwen, and she is 1500 attack. But with Apelio of Bush, she will be 2000, and that's just 2000 extra damage that we get just by having it in hand. And the last one, obviously, we can super poly 2 or 4 monsters that are the same type. To go ahead and summon a Mod Dragon or a Garura just to finish the game, no? So just a couple of things to keep in mind effect wise when finishing the game. Now something that you will often do for OTKing is that you're gonna use your ulti ray if it survives the turn to use it as a link material for another monster, and then with ulti rays in the grave or banish, you will use the effect of Lara, Sephra-Pilica, or Gwen to bring it back into the field, and then use the ray effect to get another normal summon, and that way you put so many monsters in the board that are able to attack and deal the damage that you need to. Alright, let's get started. Now everything starts with our Spirit of Lara and Rampengu in the graveyard. Spanish in bot, special summon or Ulti No Show Dragon. Now with Lara banish, we can trigger her effect. This case for a copy of Cannahawk. With Cannahawk in the field, we can use this effect, and there is 2 monsters that are not in circulation yet. One of them is Lara, and the other one is Sephra-Pilica. So we're gonna banish Sephra-Pilica. Now we can use Ulti-Noche effect to return to the extra deck to special summon. In this case, let's go for Winda. Summoning Winda, now we have a Tamer and a Spiritual Beast. Multi-Cannahawk effect, and this time we're going to be targeting one of our 2 Cannahawks, and we're going to be targeting our 2 Laras to special summon them. We target these 2, change the effect to defuse, target both Laras, summon into the field, Cannahawk goes into the grave, and we search our deck. This case for the last monster we don't have in circulation, which is gonna be Lara. Now we fuse once more for another copy of ulti-cannahawk. We can use ulti-cannahawk effect here and change the effect to the fuse. This time we're gonna target one of the Laras, we're gonna target our Rampengu, and we're gonna target our Sephra-Pilica. We resolve the change backwards. The replica Rampen goes into the field. Lara goes into the grave and we search. This time for a copy of Elder. Now for a normal summon for the turn, we can use our Elder. And we can also normal summon our Lara. Now with Lara in the field, we can bring back our ulti Rey Rautari. Now we have to make some space for some more plays, no? Now one thing that you have to be aware of when you are coming to turn 3 is how few resources we have left. This is why the deck doesn't have very good resilience and cannot play the long game, you know, you want to kill the opponent as soon as possible. So we have few resources, but we have 2 cards that we definitely want out. We have the Unicorn and we have Access Code, no? Now here I'm supposing we have enough to clear our opponent's threats and things are gonna be good with that. But if not, we can also use more effects to search to Special Summon Cannahawk again, and then we will be able to go for Unicorn, call Link by discarding and adding a card to our hand, no? That's something we can do, but in this case scenario, let's go ahead and use our Elder, or Lara, and our Sephra to Special Summon Nightmare Unicorn. Now Unicorn in the field, we want to do a Rampengo Fate. We can banish Sephra to send to the graveyard a Psychic. In this case it could be the last copy of Lara, or it could be an Elder. Let's send Lara in this case. Now we can use ulti-Rey effect, and we do happen to have a monster that is able to trigger on summon. So we use Sephra. Using Sephra effect, we're gonna Special Summon from our graveyard a copy of Apelio. So we use Apelio effect here, and it doesn't really matter what we banish. In this case I'm gonna just go for Wen. And now all our Ritual Beast monsters have pro 500. We just need to use, in this case we can use Sephra, or we can use Rampengo plus Unicorn to go into Access Code. Access Code will be 53, and only that he will also have 1 Dark in the grave, and we have a Wind too. So that's 2 monsters there they can utilize. And here we have 53 plus 31, that is a Rey again, and a couple more just to be safe, no? So this is basically how you can OTK your opponent. Alright, so now that we have a good foundation on what we are trying to do with the deck, let's go ahead and go over how we're gonna learn to play the deck. We already went over why we might want to play the deck, what the deck is about, how the best strategy for the deck is, what is our objective going first, what is our objective going second, and how we go about winning the game, you know? How the typical Ritual Beast deck win the game. Now let's go over the playstyle for beginnings. Alright, so let's say you just pick up the deck or are planning to play the deck casually at your locals or with some friends. Regardless if you just pick up the deck or applying this to be one of the main decks that you have, that you just bring to locals every once in a while, I feel the best starting point is not by looking up combos for the deck. I feel that if you look up combos, you will start, it's easy to get fixated in that stuff. Miss in learning other parts of the deck that will help you more in the long term. And apart from that, I feel if you look into combos, it's very easy to get overwhelmed just because of how many optimized combos there are. And I feel a easier starting point is to follow the next 5 tips I'm gonna give you. So tip number 1, we're gonna follow a set structure order for our summons. What this means is that we're gonna have the 3 separated sub archetypes here. I wanna just follow this order for everything. We're gonna have Elder, for example, here for the Tamers. If we have Elder in hand, we always start with Elder. If we don't have Elder, let's say we have Spiritual Beast Lara, we start with Spiritual Beast Lara, no? So we wanna follow this order. So Elder Lara, when OG Lara, or Sephra. For Spiritual Beast, we wanna always follow the same order. Cannahawk, Rampengu, Winda, and Apelio at last. And for the ulti monsters, we're gonna follow this order. We're gonna summon ulti-cannahawk, then we're gonna summon ulti-Kimufalco, then we're gonna summon ulti-cannahawk again, then we're gonna summon ulti-Rerotare. And in between, if we get stuck at any moment, we notice we cannot make any other plays, we're gonna summon ulti-Nosho Dragon. Alright? Now that's advice number 1. Number 2 is that emergency teleport is gonna be utilized only for 2 monsters. One, if you don't have Lara, we're gonna search always Spiritual Beast and Lara. If you already have Lara, we're gonna search Sephra Pilica. So just keep that in mind. So as advice number 2. Number 3, obviously if you have Shifter in hand, always start with Shifter. And I would say number 4 is something that we used to do a lot back in the day, and something that it's kind of blurry a little bit in the rules for the game, but for remembering what monster has been special summon and which one has not been special summon, one thing that people used to do back in the day is that when they were banished, they would believe, as this is similar to how Magic the Gathering has tapping the mana, or One Piece has the Dawn. For the monsters that have been special summoned already, people will let them tap. And the monsters that have not been special summoned yet, people will let them untap here. So this is something that, you're trying to remember an effect that is mandatory. So most of the time, if you ask local levels, even at regionals, it's probably gonna be okay. But just keep in mind, if you wanna make sure that this is okay with people in the tournament, you can ask the tournament organizers, you can ask the head judge if this is gonna be an issue. But for the most part, it's gonna be okay, and this way you can remember which one has been summoned already and which one has not been summoned yet. So that's another advice to keep in mind. The last thing here is that for searching monsters to the hand, we're gonna follow an order that is, for all our searches, we're gonna follow the order of the tamers, basically. So we're gonna go ahead and search normally Gwen, and after we're gonna search Lara or Sephra Pilica. And for our last search, we're gonna always search that search for our Ritual Beast Steeds. So most of the time, what we're gonna end up searching to our hand is gonna be Gwen and Aster Steeds, and this is gonna be our searches. But if we have another search, let's say we're gonna have 3 searches, then it's gonna be Gwen, Lara, Sephra Pilica, and Steeds. Just keep that order in mind when you're playing the deck. Alright, I forgot to mention, so let's cover this real quick. If you have an odd number, you want a tamer. If you have an even number, you want a Spiritual Beast monster, okay? So just keep that in mind. Let's choose our basic sort of rules, the basic ideas that we have about playing the deck for a starting hand. We're gonna start with Elder, then we're gonna summon Rampengu. Now we have an odd number, so the next one out is gonna be a tamer, no? And the next tamer in line is gonna be our Lara. So we're gonna bring our Lara and put her in circulation by banishing Kimufalco and sending to the graveyard a copy of Lara, no? Now we're gonna fuse. And the first summon from the extra deck is gonna be ulti-cannahawk, no? Now ulti-cannahawk in the field, we're gonna use the effect and we're gonna change the effect to the fuse. Remember what we did in the how to play part of the video. Goes into extra deck, these 2 are summoned into the field, and we search. And by the way, I forgot, this should be like this because they haven't been summoned yet. So we're gonna summon it into the field, tap, and we search. Now here, remember the first search is gonna be for a tamer, no? And that's gonna be or Gwen. So now we go back to an odd number of cards in circulation, no? So that means that the next one has to be a Spiritual Beast monster. So we're gonna bring out or Cannahawk into the graveyard. Now let's see if we can keep moving forward. Now we notice that we have Rampengu and Elder here in the field, and the next monster we're gonna summon is gonna be Kimufalco, no? We're gonna go ahead and notice that we do not have a target for when banished, no? So let's go ahead and remember here the monster have been a special summon, Cannahawk was a special summon, Elder was a special summon, and these 2 sorry, Rampengu was a special summon, my bad. And these two haven't been a special summon yet, no? So we're gonna go ahead and banish one of them. And banish the other one. Two special summon or ulti no show dragon, no? Now I'm gonna use Kimo Falco here. Banish any of these two. Banish Rampengu. To summon Wen. And Wen is gonna be able to special summon one of these two, no? So in this case we're gonna go for ulti-cannahawk. That way we still have a tamer and a spiritual beast monster in the field, no? Now with cannahawk we have an even number, no? We have 1 and 1, we have 2. So we're gonna banish, in this case, the next tamer in line, no? The next tamer in line is gonna be or Sephra-Pilica or Lara, no? So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, let's get rid of Lara. And now we're gonna use Cannahawk and Wen. Special summon. Remember, the Kimo Falco was the last one from the extra, so now we go back to Cannahawk. And we're gonna use Cannahawk effect here. We have these two that haven't been a special summon yet. So special summon these two. Wen has not been a special summon. These were a special summon. I'm gonna send Rampengu here to the graveyard. So go ahead and search your deck. And we already searched for Wen earlier. And we have Lara on board. So let's go ahead and search your deck for a copy of Sephra-Pilica. Now, the last thing that we summoned was ulti-cannahawk, no? So now let's go ahead and summon our next monster in line. And that will be our ulti-Re Rotare. Now with the Ray effect, we're gonna add a card here to our hand. In this case, let's go for Cannahawk if we want. And now we can normal summon Sephra-Pilica. To special summon from our graveyard the ulti-Kimo Falco we have here. Back, and this is basically a PC we have for the Ember, no? Not exactly the best way to go about playing the deck, but it's something that's gonna get you by if you just wanna play the deck casually, no? Alright, so we have some clear advice as beginner players. Let's say we wanna actually start putting effort into going to the next level, into start becoming competitive with the deck. How do we do that? I would say the number one thing you can do is simply just playing the deck. And this can be against an opponent, or this can be just by yourself, just draw a hand of 5 cards and see what you can do with it. And once you're familiar with the cards, sort of like your graduation exam, if you want to call it, from being a beginner player with the deck, I would say is to try to implement 2 Laras into the combo. And what this means is that you recall earlier when we were talking about how the Cannahawk work. Spiritual Beast Tamer Lara is a Spiritual Beast and also a Ritual Beast Tamer. So when you defuse an ulti-Cannahawk, you're able to summon both them at the same time. When you want to fuse an ulti-Cannahawk or an ulti-Noche Dragon, you are able to use both them, since one of them is a Spiritual Beast and the other the Ritual Beast Tamer. So try to utilize this in your combo. And once you feel comfortable using Lara in your combos, you will start noticing that you change the mindset that you have while performing the combos. You're gonna be less structured and more thinking about your next normal summon for the combo. And once you start thinking about that, you can go ahead and go into the competitive part of this tutorial. Alright, so we cover what we're calling beginner level play. Now, if you're trying to guess if you are at this level or not, if you're able to utilize 2 Laras in your combos, I would say that you probably can go to the next level or next step here, that will be competitive level play. Now, for competitive level play, this is gonna require a change in the mindset of how we are playing the deck. Alright, for competitive level play, we wanna start with 3 different advice. Number 1, we need to make a change in the mindset when we're performing the combos to focus more on the next normal summon. And we're gonna keep the next normal summon in mind before we perform the plays that we're gonna perform. And that way we're gonna be able to sell those plays as they come along. 2, we're gonna start separating Ulti, Noshi, and Winda when we summon them into the field, and start focusing only half or board while performing the combo. And 3, we wanna remember to clearly target the monster, that we are utilizing when defusing ulti-cannahawk. And that's something that's easy to get into the habit of not doing that. Alright, so let's get started with this example. Let's see how the 3 tips that we mentioned and the lessons that we learned from beginner players come into play here. We start with Elder, and we're going to Rampengo, no? We use Rampengo effect here. And with Rampengo, we know the next card in circulation is gonna be our Lara. So we have Lara, send into the graveyard, and now we're gonna fuse Elder and Rampengo for our ulti-cannahawk. Now we have to think about the next normal summon we have. Now we know the next normal summon in order is gonna come from Kimmu Falco. The reason why we know that is because we know we can defuse Cannahawk into these 2 monsters, and we're gonna be able to have Kimmu Falco in the field by linking both in a way, no? So the next normal summon is gonna come from Kimmu Falco. Now, since I'm gonna defuse into Elder and Rampengo, Rampengo is gonna be able to activate its effect and send Cannahawk to the graveyard. Now I'm gonna have a Cannahawk in the graveyard that has not been a special summon yet. So maybe the cards I wanna search to my hand is Lara. But let's say I wanna put Ulti-Noshi in circulation early in this combo. If I'm gonna have Ulti-Noshi in the field, I will want to utilize the monsters in my graveyard and not my field for Ulti-Noshi Dragon. So I'm gonna end up banishing that Cannahawk. So thinking ahead this way, now I know that the card I need to search to my hand is going to be Wen instead, because we're gonna be banishing the Cannahawk. So this is the way you can start thinking about the deck that is the most productive in the long term. This is what I want you guys to try to do when you are at this level of play. So we're gonna use the Cannahawk effect, and we're gonna change the effect to the fuse. So that was advice number 1, tip number 1, think ahead to your next normal summon. And advice number 2 is to clearly declare what monsters you are targeting for what. Now to activate the effect to send to the graveyard, I'm gonna target Elder and Kimmu Falco. And to change the effect to diffuse, I'm gonna target Rampengo and Elder. And this is a really, especially if you're playing with a friend or playing just casually, this is very easy not to do. You can say this is summon to the field, this go to the grave. It's very useful to get used to target things this way. That way you know better for when you're in more competitive environments, you will know what you're targeting and you are not struggling once you need to declare everything you are doing, no? So these 2 are summoned to the field, a Chainlink 2, Chainlink 1, Ulti-Kimmu Falco to the graveyard, and we talked about this earlier. We're gonna be adding Wen into our hand. Now if we plan our next normal summon, we plan it for Wen in the hand, and we plan for Rampengo to send our Cannahawk into the graveyard. So we're gonna activate Rampengo effect to send Cannahawk into the graveyard. Now let's continue until we get to the point where we successfully normal summon again. So now we're gonna use, before we do this actually, it would be better to use our Ulti-Noshi like we agree on. So we're gonna banish our Lara and Cannahawk for our Ulti-Noshi Dragon. Now if we mentioned earlier, we're gonna be working on these 4 spots of the board. These 2 are gonna be reserved for Ulti-Noshi and Winda. Every single combo we're gonna do that. And Winda might be used before the end of the combo, or might be used at the very end of the combo, and Ulti-Noshi will always be there all the way to the end, no? Unless we had used it earlier, obviously. But we work in the side of the board, these spots are just placeholder all the way to the end of the combo, or almost the very end of the combo, okay? So for Ulti-Noshi, we banish both monsters, and Ulti-Noshi is gonna have reserve a spot here at the corner, no? Now banishing Lara triggers her effect. I want a special summon from our deck, a copy of, if we see, remember what we talked about at the beginner level, we had the order, no? We have a Spiritual Beast, the next Spiritual Beast in order was a Spiritual Beast Tamer Winda, no? So we want a special summon Winda into the field. Now Now this is a current board, and we know already what our next normal summon is. So Winda also is in the reserved spots here, placeholders. Our next normal summon is gonna be these two monsters for the normal summon of ulti-cannahawk Falcon. Now I'm gonna use ulti-cannahawk Falcon effect here. I'm gonna end up banishing. I could banish Rampengu here, but I wanna keep these two engraved. So I'm gonna banish Cannahawk Falcon instead. So normal summon when effect is gonna special summon Cannahawk. And now we notice we're in a perfect situation. Remember the graduation exam for for beginner players. We have Spirit of Wisdom Lara banished. So now we're in a perfect situation, and she haven't been summoned yet, to put another Lara out in the banish pile. So let's go ahead and do just that, and that way we know we have a Tamer and a Spiritual Beast in the field, so we can fuse and defuse into two Laras. And we know that there is also two normal summons we haven't done yet. Number one, we have normal summon with ulti-rotary, and number two, we have a normal summon with Lara effect from the hand. So let's go ahead and keep moving forward in our combo. With ulti-cannahawk effect, we use cannahawk effect, to banish our old Lara. And now we're gonna fuse once more with Wen and Cannahawk into our ulti-cannahawk. Now here we have some decisions to make. Now with Cannahawk in the field, let's think about what our next normal summon is gonna be. Our next normal summon is gonna likely come from ulti-ray Rotary. If we normal summon with ulti-ray, then we're gonna be adding something to our hand that we're gonna normal summon. So it's no more use, there is no much use in searching something to normal summon with ulti-cannahawk, since we're not gonna be utilizing that monster in hand for a normal summon. So this will be a good moment to search or Ritual Beast Steeds instead. So we use ulti-cannahawk effect. Remember we're defusing too. So here we're gonna be sending to the graveyard a copy of Cannahawk. And by the way, here at this level, feel free to also do the, to put in different positions the monster that have been a special summon or not a special summon yet. You should find it useful. So we're gonna be targeting our ulti-cannahawk, and we're gonna be targeting one of our two Spirit of Wisdom Lara. I'm gonna change the effect to defuse, getting both Laras into the field, putting Cannahawk into the graveyard, and searching. Now we know we're going to be searching for a steed, since the next normal summon is going to come from the effect of ulti-ray Rautari. So we add the steeds to our hand. Now we have a clear path here forward. We know this is placeholder, so we have our monsters here, 3 of them, that equal a rank 4, no? So the next step is going to be summoning ulti-ray Rautari. Now with ulti-ray, we know we're gonna be summoning something into the field, no? Now we use ulti-ray effect, and here we have two options. We have Wen and we have Cannahawk, but as you see, Wen does not have any good targets that are banished. So instead of adding Wen, we're gonna add Cannahawk. So Cannahawk is gonna go into our hand, we're gonna normal summon Cannahawk. And now, thinking ahead again, we have Cannahawk in the field, and we happen to have a Spiritual Beast monster and a Ritual Beast Tamer. So, and we have a Tamer banished. So the next steps should be put a Spiritual Beast in the banish pile, no? So let's go ahead and do that. By going through our order, we have Wind already out, we already have Rampengu in the grave, and we have Cannahawk in the field. So the next one in line should be Apelio, no? So let's go and grab Apelio and the Spanish Apelio. Now we're gonna utilize our Cannahawk and our Winda on the field for ulti-cannahawk once more. We're gonna activate ulti-cannahawk effect. We're gonna target our Banish Cannahawk Falcon and our Wen to return to the graveyard. And we're gonna change the effect to defuse, targeting our Apelio and targeting Wen. These two are summoned into the field. Cannahawk Falcon goes into the grave, and we search our deck. In this case, you place 2 steeds, you could search the second steed. Or we could simply search follow-up. In this case, something like Sephra-Pilica. And at last, we can utilize a Apelio effect, and here we could banish an ulti-cannahawk Falcon, no? And we basically did the whole optimal combo just by thinking about the next steps. This is the best way to learn the combos, because this way you get stuck at any moment. You know, your opponent hand trap you go ahead and has other monsters in hand. Like for example, let's say all the time we have one in hand, we know what to do next, no? Remember the 3 tips we're gonna have. Number 1, let's think in ways of next normal summon. And this is gonna be normally when a ulti-cannahawk hit the field, you think about how we're gonna normal summon next. And that's how you prepare stuff like banishing monsters for when, for example. So number 1, think about your next normal summon. Number 2, when you has, we're gonna divide the part of the board that we're gonna be working on and the part of the board that is gonna remain the same. So this spot, normally the corner spot, more often than not, if we haven't used it in the combo, it's gonna be reserved for Ultinoshi, and this spot is gonna be reserved for Winda. So just keep that in mind while performing the combo. And number 3, when we are defusing, remember to clearly declare what monsters you are targeting for what effects. That's something that's gonna help you a lot in the long term. Now, as you are at this level, for practicing the deck, I would recommend practicing hands from the deck, or maybe playing against your opponent, maybe a friend, maybe play at your locals, and keeping those 3 things in mind. Just to reiterate, number 1, change the mindset and think about your next normal summon, especially when an ulti-cannahawk hit the board. How you're gonna reach that next normal summon. Number 2, separate the parts of the boards that you're working on. We're gonna be working on these 4 zones. These 2 are gonna be placeholders all the way until almost the end of the combo, until the end of the combo. Normally this is gonna be reserved for Ultinoshi. Normally this is gonna be reserved for Winda. And at last, when you are targeting monsters that are vanishing and you're trying to defuse your ulti-cannahawk, remember to target things properly and get in the habit of targeting things properly. Alright, for our graduation exams for this level of play, there is 2 different things we are going to do. Number 1, we want to perform optimally the Elder Cannahawk and the Elder Rampengu combo. So this is the first time, by the way, you notice through all this advice and everything we have talked about, this is the first time I refer to actually looking up a combo sheet, because I feel this is the level at which you will actually get benefits looking up combos and making sure you're performing the optimal combos when you're going to transition from being a competitive player to an expert. So here I have the spreadsheet I created for the deck. You will notice it has a lot of things in here. I'm going to talk about this in just a second when we cover the expert play. Well, basically has links here to these 2 combos in particular, and see if you can perform these 2 combos perfectly. And that's going to be sort of like part 1 of the exam, if you want to call it. Alright, for part 2, I have here the typical endboard that I normally go for when I perform Elder Rampengu combo. So what I want us to do is that you can do this, let's say we can do it as it is, or we can do it as after using Kimufalco effect and everything. And maybe we use these 2 monsters to go into an IP, or so on, no? Into an SP, sorry, or so on. So let's say we have a setup like this. Now we want to grab all the monsters we have in the field, everything we have, and put it in the graveyard. And what I want you to try to do is to, from this, try to OTK your opponent just by using what you have in the grave. So once we go ahead and do this, and also we should probably banish one of the 2 Laras. Let's say we use her defensively. So go ahead and try to OTK your opponent. And what I think is good to practice at this moment, something that you can, is very easy not to practice, is OTK lines. So I think this will be very useful, because OTK lines also are the same lines that we use to break boards, and this is going to help you a lot going second. Now again, the one thing you want to watch out for here is that you master the Rampengu Elder and the Elder Rampengu and the Elder Cannahawk lines. So look at the spreadsheet, make sure you are performing those combos optimally, and also make sure you're able to OTK after your board is clear. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and begin to tackle expert level play. And I feel most people watching this video is gonna be somewhere in between these 2. So let's go ahead and go into how we become an expert with the deck. Alright, so we're beginning our journey as an expert level player for the Ritual Beast deck. We wanna reach that level of mastery, you know, when we know the deck in and out, we know everything about the deck, you know. So I believe there is 6 important things we need to focus on at this point. Number 1 is remembering the combo lines, and this involves also learning the optimal combo lines and being able to perform them in duels. That second part, being able to perform in a duel, is important. So it's something we want to keep practicing until it becomes second nature. The second one here, I would say to learn technical plays and important rulings for the deck. And I have a video about that I'm gonna link later on. The third one is to don't have any indication of what monster have been special summon, which have not. So you remember earlier we were talking about tapping the monster if it was special summon and leaving it on tap if it wasn't special summon yet. Stop doing that, because the issue is that this also gives your opponent the information. You want to be at the point where if they think you special summon something twice, you can go back and you can tell them when you normal summon that monster, and you can show actually you haven't special summoned it yet. And that way you can catch a lot of opponents off guard because they think you have more diffusion, and you can prove that you actually just normal summon the monster early, you never special summon it. So, apart from that, I would say that another point that we want to practice here is to make sure that we can set different boards with the same starter hand. I know we have been working a single combo through this whole video. It has been the Rampengu Elder combo, which also is able to end not only in the SP line that we mentioned earlier, the one that going to IP, and then we can do SP, and we have ulti ray with set steeds. But it can also end up in a rank 4 with a steeds in hand. It can also end up in something like Totem Bear, for example. It's a lot of different alternatives that line can provide. You want to make sure that that's in your back pocket so you know the best line to go for depending on the match you're playing. Now I would say point number 5 here is to learn the specific interaction with certain handlers. I'm gonna link to a video in a little bit that will cover that. And the last point here is something that I feel is sort of the Achilles heel of anybody trying to play a rogue strategy or a strategy that's not that popular, and it's that it's important to practice the decks that are the best in the format. I feel a lot of the time we can invest a lot of time in our deck, but if we don't have a good read on the format or a good understanding of how the other decks play, it's going to be hard for us to perform the optimal plays against those matchups. Alright, so let's start talking about how we're going to improve the 6 points that we speak about before. Number 1, this is a resource that will be in the description below. I put together this spreadsheet that has all the combos for the deck and a couple of other things here and there that will help you master the deck. Now for this spreadsheet, I will give you sort of a rundown of everything in here and how you can utilize this tool. Number 1 is obviously the spreadsheet is mainly designed to figure out the optimal combo lines, no? So here we have the different combos the deck have, your combo starters in hand, and we have the embors that they produce here. Now next to the embors here, we have how many interactions that embor contain. So you see some of them have 4, most of them are 4 and 5, with the exception of the Rampengu starter by itself, that is only 2 interactions. The next one is for deck building considerations. So the next columns here are for deck building considerations. So you have here different cards that can be in your deck, and it will be marked with an X here if the combo actually requires that card. So we have here Petelfin, we have Sephirapilica, Bones, Ulti Apelio, and we also have the tier ulti-cannahawk. Now apart from that, there is a consideration. The combo will be able to search a second steed, so this can help you decide if you want to play another steed in your deck. You see a lot of combos are able to search a second steed, so if you want to include that, to increase the power of the deck going first, that's the option. And obviously here is the link, and this is a link to a video that I make, and this is this video that contains all the 1 and 2 card combo starters for the deck. So you notice a lot of, and I go into detail into good ways to learn. Some of the tips that were in this video actually were in that video, and this is over 3 hours of content just showcasing the different combos for the deck. And the ones that we know up to now, I still consider the more optimal combos for the deck. So those are gonna be there, and not only that, I find this is a really good resource if you are starting to learn the combos, so you can get a better idea of the combos and you are practicing by yourself. you can utilize the DB links here, and this is just, as the name suggests, it's a link to Dwelling Book that has the actual combo being performed right here. So you can also use this, and obviously I has included here a DB link for every single combo that we have in the deck. So this covers the first point of the 6 points that we mentioned. Here you'll be able to look at the optimal combos, and I would say it would be a good process to learn combos, at least learning this way, is to start by looking into videos of the combos, and I would say after try to practice yourself, and try to practice if possible in something that's not an automated tool, so preferably something like DB or physical cards. And once you have practiced it a little bit, then try to go ahead and play performing on games, no? And I think that's a really good process to learn the combos. Now, if you just get started and you're thinking which combos do I learn first, I would say definitely tackle first the Elder Cannahawk and Elder Rampengu combo. If you have an option for a combo in the deck, I would say these two are the ones that you want to pick. And the reason why I like these combos, in particular the reason why I have been showcasing through this video Elder Rampengu, is because it's a combo that not only make it easy to learn the Elder Cannahawk combo, but also has a lot of variability in the endboard. You see, we have the regular combo hint that we have been performing, but we also have the combo with the alternative rank for play, and we also have an alternative endboard that contains 6 monsters that can end in totem bear if we want to. So we have these combo lines that I would say is the two first one. After we go over the individual 1 card starters, these two, and after we tackle the Spiritualist Melara, and everything just doing it with Cannahawk and Rampengu, sorry, first. And after that, I will tackle the Italy combos. And for the Italy combos, I will tackle those two first, again, Cannahawk and Rampengu. And then I will tackle the ones that has to do with the rest of the cards, like this Italy, Lara, and all this stuff. And the reason behind that is because these combos are, you see how many cards, it's Italy plus 6 different cards. So this is something that's gonna come up here and there in your matches. And after that will be the shifter combo and everything else in the sheet, I would say. Now that covers getting started with the combos and going ahead and performing the combos in duels, no? So now when it comes to the second point that we mentioned earlier, technical play and learning all the in and outs of the deck, I make this video about tips, tricks, and technical play for the deck that contain a couple of tips that you can utilize while playing the deck. Now the thing with technical play is that it comes or it emerges mainly from playing the deck, especially going second. So I would recommend you, if you're gonna practice this part of the game, practice going second with the deck against different top meta decks. So I would say that's the best way to go about learning technical play for the deck. And the other advice is obviously, you know, when you're playing physical cards, and this actually goes into playing with physical cards and also where to play. And I would say try as much as you can to play in the V when the cards are released, and to play with physical cards, because the issue is that with a deck like this, you have to get used to memorizing or remembering which monster have been special summoned and which ones have not. And I think that's a very, very important skill while playing the deck, and it's something you do get exposed to if you only play in EDO Pro or if you only play in Omega, for example. So I would definitely recommend you as soon as you can to start playing with physical cards if possible. So that will be the main theme for the first 3 tips that we mentioned. The next one will be how to set up different boards, no? And the main thing we have here is that I put here links to different boards that we have for certain combos. And if you wanna look into more boards that you can set up, you can go here to the right, and this is on outdated combos that have been sort of like power creep by the newer combos that we have in the left. But we also have other boards here, so these are all possible endboards, and I put all the endboards here that the deck can provide. So you can see there's a lot of the combos of the deck has different boards that they can set up. So you can start practicing this, but I would say mainly focus on thinking, when you're thinking about different boards, mainly focus about the Elder Cannahawk and the Elder Rampengu lines. Now for the next point in the list, we have setting up boards and interacting with hand traps with our opponent, no? And for that, I made a whole video about it, and I also have these 3 rows here that deal with how we handle Nibiru basically, and what the sort of like game plan is to play against Nibiru. And now for this, I also created a video, and I'm gonna put it again in the description below. There's an hour-long video just talking about different hand traps and how we play through them, and how we can play through different interruptions just in general with the deck. Alright, as far as practicing the deck, I actually made a whole video about what to expect when July comes around and Terminal Revenge is released. I guess I should say towards the end of June. But basically, what I'm thinking is gonna be the best decks of the format. And I go and land on what I feel the format is gonna look like and how I think Ritual Beast is gonna perform. So if you are curious about that, I would definitely consider taking a look at that video. But apart from that, the main thing I want to cover here is what decks to practice, and this is how I was thinking the tier level was going to look like, because I was thinking Snake Eyes was going to be hit a little more severely than we actually end up being hit. But the main thing here is that instead of practicing the deck, I would recommend, you remember how I mentioned earlier how I feel we should stay away from simulators that actually are automated to practice Ritual Beast. In this case, I feel we should do the opposite. Because I feel when you're practicing a deck that you're not gonna play like this, you just wanna know what the plays are like, what the combos are, what the lines are. It's very useful to have a simulator that is automated. The reason behind that is because you can get a lot of reps very fast, since you don't have to do everything manually like in DB. So I would definitely recommend to go ahead and practice the fire decks, I would say. Practice Tenpai, those are gonna be, at least for now, it seems like gonna be the top contenders of the format. And apart from that, practice Voiceless, practice on Branded, Lab, and Kashtira, I would say. And each one also some, if you practice Fire, you can also practice Fire Firekin. And also I feel like that could be a useful deck to practice, but I feel mainly the Fire deck, the Snake Eye, pure Snake Eye deck. And regardless of which one of the builds with Melodious, Kashtira, or whatever the other part of the deck is, your Super Engine. So I definitely say take at least a weekend to just practice a lot of these decks in something like EDO Pro or Omega, and make sure that you are at least familiar with how they perform in the format. And that way you can make better assessments on how to use your flex spots in the deck, and also how the matchups look like for the Ritual Beast deck. Alright, so that's basically the best way to go from starting being an expert to the deck to full mastery over the deck. I feel that this way we have a good progression between being a beginner, getting to competitive, and getting to be an expert with the deck. That can really help you guys if you are just starting with the deck and you want to have something to look forward to, you know. And with this progression, it doesn't feel so overwhelming. You don't have to go to the spreadsheet and try to memorize the combos right away and do all the crazy stuff. You can start slow and start ramping up how you play, and learn a lot of the things that are very important apart from the combos to perform well with the deck. So now we have covered the expert part of the deck. Let's go over the current deck list I have, and this deck list is meant to be also sort of like a draft for you guys to come up with your own ideas about the deck. Alright, so this is the deck list I'm currently working on. Two things before we get started. Number one, I go on detail over this deck list and all my card choices in a different video I have that I'm gonna link in the description below. And there you can see my reasoning behind it and more in detail on why we play certain cards. I'm gonna try to keep things a little brief for this video in particular. And number two, this deck list is meant to be a draft for you to get started or use as a starting point, and see once you master the deck, once you feel comfortable with the deck enough, you start seeing your own results and start noticing, okay, maybe I need more power going first, make some changes. Maybe I need more options from the extra deck, more versatility. Maybe I need some more help, OTK, all that sort of stuff. So you make changes to it. But right now I feel this is, I'm confident this is one of the, it's very close to an optimal list. There will be some changes of cards here and there, depending on the format obviously, but I feel this is a pretty good bet right now. Now for the actual list, we have 6 1-card starters, and there will be 3 Cannahawks and 3 Pengus. We have 3 Elders for our 2-card starters, and we have 3 Tellies and 3 Laras, and this will be our extenders. And also obviously Italy and Lara also are part of our 2-card starters with literally any other Ritual Beast monster, no? Then we have Seprapilica, Gwen and Lara as our combo extenders, and also these cards are good for recovery coming turn 3. And apart from that, we have 2 actual sort of like bricks. Well, obviously, you know, this can be similar to all the other ones. All the other Ritual Beast monsters can have combos with all the other Spiritual Beasts, I should say, can have combo with Elder, or any other Ritual Beast monster can have combo with Italy or Lara, no? So we have Apelio for that, and we have Winda too. Apart from that, we have Inheritance here and Prosperity, and these are gonna be cards that are gonna be increasing the consistency on the deck and try to get us to whatever piece we need for the main part. So Inheritance, if we have 1 card for 1-card starter, for 2-card starter, sorry, it will get us the other part of the 2-card starter, and also we'll be able to search extenders if we already has a hand that is able to play. Apart from that, Prosperity is gonna be able to just increase consistency of the deck, and the way that we use Prosperity in this deck is basically just pot of greed, just that you draw 1 card. It's basically the way we use it. I normally almost never Prosperity for 6, and you normally just use it because, well, you have the consistency increase, no? And I would say you can sacrifice a little bit from the extra deck to have that consistency boost in the deck. But from that, we have 3 bombs and 3 shifters. We have 6 defensive hand traps, and these are gonna vary depending on the format, obviously. And we have 6 board breaker / defensive cards here. So we have Calvi and 3 super polis in the deck. And the last one is a true brick that we have in the deck. But also, you know, you will be surprised how often you draw a Stitch turn 1 and able to set it is not too bad. We have 1 Stitch, and this will be 40 cards for the main deck. Alright, so here we have the extra deck and the side deck. For the extra decks, we have 2 Decklist, the main card to generate advantage. We have ulti-cannahawk to be able to get extension in our combos. We have 2 ulti-cannahawk for the same reason, and also recover it play around hand traps and protection. We have ulti-ray Rotary as our combo MPs, and similar to ulti-Gaia Pelio. For board breaking, we have defensive tools, I guess I should say. We have IP and SP. And board breaking and OTKing, we have Nightmare Unicorn and Access Code. The last 3 here, we have Anima, and this is right now the most flex spot I have. If there is 1 card that could switch away from this extra day, it's gonna be this one. And we have our 2 super poly targets. Now for the side deck, we have 3 Phantasmes. This is mainly because there's so many decks right now, mainly fire obviously, that I need a link monster, and I think that's very useful for that. We have Black Gold Laugh. That will be for Tempai mainly, but also has utilization across a bunch of matchups. You know, you can call stuff against fire, against boisterous, all sorts of decks. We have Book of Eclipse as a defensive tool to deal with Nip and other hand traps, and also as a tool to play against Tempai and other decks that you can put in if you don't have anything else that is good going first or going second. You know, if you play against something that doesn't end up in link monsters, that doesn't let the monster be put face down, that's a really good card for that. And we have Dust Tornado, or I should say Dust Tornado. I prefer Duster. Cosmic Cyclone and 2 Lightning Storms. And this is basically just the squad to make sure we don't lose to stone, and make sure that we also are equipped to play against other decks like Tempai and other decks in the format that we could struggle with if we don't have Experimental Removal. And the last 2 cards here is our Link Spider to play around Nip, and we have a Gaga Cowboy for time. I want to mention again 2 things with this deck list. Number 1, I explain all of the card choices in detail in a different video I have, and I'm going to link in the description. And number 2, this should be sort of like a starting draft, and what I like of this list a lot is that it tries to be as consistent as possible. So then you can start realizing things about the deck from that perspective, no? I feel making this deck is a lot about sacrificing things and increasing other things in the deck. So for example, I reduce the power of going first, that's why you don't see cards here like Colossus, to increase the consistency on the deck and to have a space for going second ball breakers, no? So you are gonna kill, you're gonna keep sort of like leveling these things up and down, like how much consistency I can get rid of, I can deal with losing and increasing the power of the deck if that's what you feel you need. Or if you need more consistency, this is basically as consistent as they come for this deck in particular, I feel. Alright, so again, that's the deck list I'm currently playing. It should be sort of like a draft for you guys. If you are going to start playing the deck, you will notice that it's a good starting point as it makes the deck consistent as possible, but if you feel you need more resources, make changes. It's a good starting point to also start looking forward to make changes like that. Now let's cover what we're gonna expect a month from now when the cards release. Alright, so what we can expect from the Ritual Beast deck coming July of this year. Well, for the Terminal Revenge format, the first thing I want to mention is that I actually make a whole video about it. I speak for about half an hour in this video about why I expect the format to look like coming July of this year. But to keep things brief in this video, because I don't want to speak for half an hour in a video that's supposed to be a tutorial, I want to mention the deck is going to be really good. And there is 3 main reasons why I feel the deck is going to be extraordinarily good here in the TCG. Number 1, and this might feel the most obvious one, there is no Max C in this format, and that is a huge difference. The main reason behind that is because if you get Max C in the OCG, you basically have to pass your turn. There is no way you are playing through Max C. You have to give your opponent way too many cards, and it's gonna be too difficult for you to overcome that. We play in the deck, since the Ritual Beast deck has to fuse and defuse and do so many things during the combo, no? Number 2 is also the Maxi. The deck is very bad at playing with Maxi. The main reason behind that is because the deck doesn't play that many extenders. You are not able to have something like Itel in hand or Spiritual Beast MLR in hand. You basically can draw as many cards as you want, you still only have one normal summon. If that normal summon doesn't go through, your opponent has a way to destroy major Elder Kanaha, Elder Rampengu combo, you are in trouble. So while the deck is bad playing into Maxi, the deck is also bad playing with Maxi, you know? So that's another thing, that's the first point I would say we keep in mind. Without Maxi here in the TCG, it's gonna be way better for the deck. It's gonna be a way better format for the deck. Number 2, it's gonna be the other differences that we have with the ban list in the OCG. And that is, we have here in the TCG, we have 3 shifters, they have 2 in the OCG, so you have 10% more chances of drawing a shifter in the TCG. Apart from that, and this is a huge difference that is not talked about enough when people talk about this deck, is the emergency teleport different. We have 10% more chances, we have 3 copies, and they have 2 copies of Itel, and Itel is huge for the deck, because it's the one only true extender that we have. So having Itel in your hand, especially in a hand trap heavy format like this one, is very important. The third one here is Post Prosperity. Post Prosperity, I feel, is gonna be a staple in the deck. Mainly because if we had the space in the extra deck to go ahead and play Prosperity, it's basically we're seeing 3 more cards in the deck, we see the piece that we need for the combo, we add it to our hand. So I think it's a very important card for the deck because of that, and they only have 1 and we have 3, so it's another big change that we have. So with all these 3 big changes, mentioning other things, other cards that the deck can play, like Super Poly for example, is from 2 to 3. I feel that you are able to have a deck that is way more consistent, way more powerful. You know, it's gonna be more games where you just basically auto-win because of shifter. There's gonna be more games where you get hand traps and you have the ETL to extend. There's gonna be more games where you don't have a way to play and you play Prosperity and you're able to get to the Lara, you're able to get to the Elder to have your 2-card combo. So I feel this change in the format is gonna be very important for the deck. And the third point here is about what we call conversion rate. As you know what conversion rate is how many people enter a tournament with a specific deck, how many of them actually end up topping the event. And the Ritual Beast deck is gonna have very low representation just because of the type of deck it is. It's a deck that is for a niche archetype that maybe some people play in the past, where it was even niche back then. It's a deck that requires you to look at it a little bit more in order to be able to play properly. And it's a deck that is gonna come into a format where there is already a dominant deck that is gonna be better than it. So with all these things in mind, the Ritual Beast deck is not gonna have that much representation. And I have an example here from the OCG. Here in this event there were 50 people, and I wish we have more numbers for representation in the TCG. I always find it kind of odd that we are seeing these topping numbers for events, but we do not have an idea of how many people actually went to the event with those decks in mind, you know? So here for the Ritual Beast deck, you will notice that of the 50 people here, there was only one Ritual Beast player. And then when they went to Iptoku for the event, you notice that the one Ritual Beast player actually was able to win top 16 and actually won the event with the deck. And I feel this is going to be an issue that the decks have. The deck is really strong and has a lot of power behind it, but it's not going to have representation in it for it to appear as a very big threat in YCSs and big events. But the deck strength is good enough to actually top and even win big events, I would say. So that comes down to what this video is about, and hopefully what I'm trying to achieve with this tutorial and my other videos. Hopefully we can bring the representation number a little higher so the deck can be more represented in the TCG and more people have the opportunity to play the deck, because I feel it's a really cool deck to play. It's a deck that allows for a lot of skill expression. And at the same time, it's a deck that is very strong. I feel the deck, I'll be honest, if piloted at the highest level, I feel it's probably the tier best deck of the format, you know? Right behind Fire and Tempest, you know, I feel the deck is that strong, but it's the issue of somebody investing the time to get to that level, and hopefully this tutorial help you guys do that. Now before we end this part of the video, I do want to cover one more thing. What will happen past July for the deck? I would say the number one most important development is the release of Mulchumi Purulia, and this is the hand traps that actually you can activate only if your board is empty, so it's not like maxi in the aspect. But in the other aspects, it's very similar. Every time a card is normal, special summon from the hand, your opponent is gonna draw a card, and it has a clause here that limit that drawing, but it's not gonna go into play anytime soon. So this card is very troublesome for us. The reason behind it is because a full combo of Ritual Beasts allows the opponent to draw 4 cards, and that's too many. So when this card comes out, I would say we will want to keep in mind some options that we will have to change, especially in the side deck. Since this card, I'm expecting it personally to be something that people put in the side deck, almost as like a side deck staple for the format. And one card that is going to come into play with all this is Crossout Designator. So I will definitely get a place of Crossouts if you already don't have one. I would say right now Crossout is kind of the borderline if we want to put in the side deck or not. But when Mulchumi comes out, if everybody starts side decking Mulchumi, that's going to be a reason to put Crossout in the deck. Apart from that, another thing that comes out in July with Infinite Forbidden is the Fiendsmith package. And I make another video about this, in which I go over how you can use the Fiendsmith to put 2 negates, 2 summon negates, 2 pieces of interaction on board, and also protect or insulate your combo against Nibiru in particular. And I'm also going to put the link to that video in the description below. Alright, with that, we covered the last topic for the video. We have gone from knowing what Ritual Beast cards are all the way to becoming an expert, to know how to analyze the Decklist I'm currently working on, and what to expect when the cards are finally released come the end of June and July of this year. Alright, so it took a lot of time and effort to put a video together. So I really hope you guys find it informative and find something useful out of it. Again, this video is meant to be more of like a reference for you guys to be able to visit and revisit as you make your journey through learning the deck. Now, if you find this video informative, and I need to get better about asking this through the video actually, I would really appreciate you like the video. And also, remember, if you're looking for more ritual-based content, and in the future I'm gonna have some ideas for other types of video. If you wanna keep an eye out for more of my content or more Yu-Gi-Oh content, I would really appreciate you subscribe to the channel. I can't believe support you guys gave me more than 300 subscribers. Seems very insane to me, especially with how I've been doing this for 4 or 5 months. So I really appreciate all the support. And apart from this, I'm gonna be streaming this weekend. So if you wanna jump into a live stream, my live stream is twitch.tv/EdYO channel. And I will be streaming over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, probably both days. And I will, again, I have a Twitter account that is twitter.com/EdYO channel. So you can follow me there, and I'm gonna be posting whenever I go live. And only that, I'm gonna also put a YouTube video. I'm gonna put a YouTube video live, and it's gonna come offline when I go offline. But when I'm streaming, it's gonna be on there, so you guys have something on your YouTube feed that can help you know when I am live. Apart from that, my next video actually is gonna be a video in Spanish. So I'm gonna try to have been getting a lot of requests from people that speak Spanish or making a video in Spanish for them. So I'm gonna be doing that. So just keep an eye out. My next video is gonna be not in the language you're used to. So if you speak Spanish, be welcome to it. But it's basically going to be the same content as this video, a little more summarized and a little less edited, because I just don't think I'm gonna have the time to edit that one as much as this one. But just keep an eye out for that video if you speak Spanish. If not, you will have this video right out here just for you. So apart from that, if you have any questions about the deck, any whatsoever, please feel free to put in the comments below. I really enjoy answering you guys' questions. Some of them actually made me think about some deck decisions and help me improve my deck skills too. So I really appreciate you guys commenting below. Apart from that, I just wanna thank you again for watching this video. And I will see you in the live stream over the weekend. If you have any questions, you can also feel free to go and ask there. If not, I will be seeing you in the next video.